That's what you said last on Wednesday. All right. We are.
Now remember.
Oh my God, Andy! One of these days, I'm gonna reach through the screen and throttle you. All right.
Yes. But not right now because COVID.
Yeah, it's not safe. It's not socially
Don't,
distant.
don't you have the ability to mute him from your
I do have
position?
I do. You are right. All right, I'm muting Andy. All right. Okay. This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Anais.
We don't know
I'm
the order.
Andy.
Oh,
It's
do-
always the same, Gerald.
No, it's not always the
Yes,
same.
it is.
How
It's
can it always
Anais,
be the
Gerald,
same?
Andy. Ever since we stopped doing the game, we have the same order that we submit stories and the same order that we say hello. It has not
That's
changed.
not true because the person whose story it is says hello first.
Yes, and then it goes Annie, Gerald, Andy, or Gerald, Andy, Annie, or Andy, Annie, Gerald. You'll
It's
notice a
not the
pattern.
same.
Yes, it is. It's a loop. It's a loop. All right.
It's
sorry, I
different
messed
in
it
the
up.
same ways every time.
It is always the same. All right. This is what happens when we record on an off day. Normally, we don't record on Fridays.
Whatever. I'm Andy.
Gerald didn't
Gerald.
say. Oh my God! Can we do this again? I need to
what?
record. I need to sound edit. I need it to like flow. All right. I'm just gonna do the I'm Anais. All right. I'm Anais. Gerald.
Oh, is it me? I thought it was Andy.
All right. You know what? I'll get it in post somehow.
Well, you
Just
tell me.
say that you're Gerald.
I'm Gerald, and I'm Andy.
Right. And I'll say, and I'm Gerald.
And I'm Andy.
All right.
And this is Literary Roadhouse.
People watching us live having a great time. All right.
Yeah, it's Friday.
It is Friday. This is why we normally record on Wednesdays. We're not as loopy.
Yeah. And I've missed my lunchtime nap today, so I'm all grouchy and
Good.
tired.
That's what we want. That's for the
Okay.
best.
So this week, we are discussing Fatima the Biloquist, a transformation story by Nafissa Thompson-Spires. If you haven't read the story, there's a link in the show notes. And you should read the story. It wasn't too long. And also, if it is long, this is a literary podcast. You should always read the story. Okay. Let us discuss.
4,500 words.
Yes. So in Fatima the Biloquist, we follow the story of Fatima, who she is a Black girl who goes to a predominantly white school, and she has predominantly white interests, so she sometimes feels like she's not Black enough. That's the first thing you learn about her, and she would like to be, culturally speaking. At her school, she's kind of shy. She's generally shy, not exactly an outcast, but not a cool kid. But then there's this kid, Wally the Wigger, a white kid who like wears FUBU and is like a part of Black culture somehow, and everyone loves him, and she resents him and hates him. She's at the mall, being a shy kid at a department store looking at makeup, and she meets Violet. Violet is a Black girl who has albinism, and so she looks like she should be more white, even though she has Black features, but she's still very much a part of Black culture, lives in the Black side of town, goes to a Black school. Okay, so they become friends, and Violet teaches Fatima how to, sound and act and enjoy things that are more Black. They become best friends. They start talking about boys, but Fatima realizes she's code switching, right? She says her top lip is darker than her bottom lip, which is pink. And sometimes she speaks with the pink lip. Sometimes she speaks with the darker lip, depending on who she's with. And that's the Biloquist part of it. So she's code switching. She ends up dating a white boy from her school named Rolf. It's all very sweet. He's kind of a cute kid. I like Rolf. He's nice. I mean, he could be better, but he's a teen. So, but she doesn't want to tell Violet. She feels somehow like this is a betrayal, the fact that she's dating a white boy. So she kind of hides this. Violet finds out anyway. Violet is sensitive about the fact that she is albino, and she says that she used to get teased. She was called Patty Mayonnaise. That's a character from the Nickelodeon show, Doug. Patty Mayonnaise is... Yes. So Fatima tells Rolf about this, and then when Rolf meets Violet by chance outside of a movie theater, he's like, "Oh, Patty Mayonnaise, I get it now." Bad. And then the girls walk away from each other, and Fatima feels like she messed up. So that's the story. Did I miss anything big? I don't think so.
Heavens to Murgatroyd.
Heavens to Murgatroyd. Yes.
Yes.
All right.
That's one thing she says. Isn't
funny,
it? Which
though.
is silly. Yeah. And she
Okay.
gets educated out of saying things like that because they're not black things.
They're not white things either, okay? No kid in the 1990s is saying heavens to Murgatroyd. The reason this girl is unpopular is also because she's weird, all right?
Yeah.
She's
mean,
cool, and she
she
likes
is cool.
Snagglepuss. I
She's
was going to call him Snaggletooth again. That's the wrong name.
She is a bright child who is awkward and will eventually come into her own, but right now is a little off-putting to other teens.
Exit. Stage left even.
Oh my gosh, he is so hot.
All right, so, Gerald, what did you think of the story?
Oh, yeah, it was interesting that on Wednesday when I goofed up and you said it needs to be read again, and I think I'd read it twice already, but coming back to it after a break actually made it better. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a bit sort of one-dimensional, a bit, it was an interesting premise, but it was that's what it was all about. It just didn't do anything else, and so yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I didn't. It didn't scream from the rafters, but it was pretty good. And can I just ask? And it might be offensive, so I've got to ask anyway. Would Fatima be called an eggplant? Is that extremely offensive?
I don't remember this. Is she called an eggplant in the story?
No.
Oh, well, what do you mean? What is an eggplant?
What?
I don't know this word. No, is this a British thing?
Yeah, we don't know your
we don't know your
strange
weird British possibly racist.
You call it an eggplant,
right?
Don't you?
No, I know what an eggplant is, but how does this apply to the story?
Well, because she's black on the outside and white on the inside.
Oh no, that's Oreos.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really? It's because I thought it was American because we don't use the word eggplant. We use aubergine.
Yeah, no, Oreo. But it is actually offensive a little bit in the sense that there is no single way to be black. She is black. She is black because she is black. And just because she happens to like Charles Brockton Brown doesn't mean she is not black.
Right.
But I mean, understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like,
in fact, de facto, any of Fatima's interests
are now
black
blackened.
Person's interests.
Exactly, because she is a black person.
To Murgatroyd.
Exactly. Yes. But I get what you're saying. Like, in terms of what conceptually the stereotypes of what's what, especially young kids like to like delineate these things, right? Because like Oreo is not a thing that my peers are saying, but definitely in high school they did. So
and I think to be referred to as that means that they want to be white on the inside. So rather than but she just naturally is because that's how she's been brought up. She's been brought up in a white neighborhood with a white school with white surroundings, so she just happens to be a girl in a black girl in a white society or subset of,
as many are. So yeah. So Andy, what did you think of the story?
It was very flat in a way, right? Like well written prose, and like I was clipping along and it carried my interest, and I was with it all the way, and then I kept thinking like, oh, okay, that's a reference that's going to mean something later. It's like, no, it just is white stuff and black stuff. Like it's not the particulars didn't matter, right? It didn't especially matter other than autobiographical reasons. I assumed that it was set in 98. It didn't, like none of that sort of like bore deeper meaning in anything. And it's a story. It's about what it's about. And then it ended. And I was like, oh, okay.
I love you.
Because I was kind of rolling with it, going at a pretty good clip. And it's like, okay, now it's done.
And some great turns of phrases too. I loved.
Yeah.
There's some really, really nice. You think, oh, that's clever. It's you think,
I like when she's listening. Yeah, she's listening to music and she's listening to ska and punk, and it's sinking into the distantly black but presently white sounds of ska and punk. I love that line.
Yeah,
so good.
That was a good line. I highlighted that also.
Yeah.
Well, right at the start when she was in school and she did her little speech, and the other kids in the class clapped dull palms. I thought, nice. That's a nice turn of phrase. I like that.
And that whole sentence, or the second paragraph, where she exists as a vapor, a stain, a condensation stain. That whole thing was just it put you in like the right mood, or like it was good. It was just a good way to describe a person who isn't really occupying space in the way that they carry themselves through life. Yeah.
Oh, and I just realised what Wally the Wigger Arnett, what Wigger is.
Yep.
Yes. No, you got it.
Duh.
Welcome to America.
Yeah. Welcome to modern society, I think.
So the first time, I think I'm closer to Andy. Like, yeah, the first time I read it, I kind of had the same feeling. Like, that was good, but yes, I'm not like, woo. And I did the same thing where I started digging into every reference, and I was just like, it's just a reference. Like, it's not a thing. Like, I went real deep into Charles Brockton Brown, trying to find stuff, like real deep. Like, oh, she has a crush on Arthur Mervyn, the fictional character from his 1799 novel about the 1793 yellow fever epidemic in Philadelphia. This must be relevant. And like digging in.
No,
like,
she's just a nerd, right?
She's just a nerd.
She's just a nerd.
Which is important, I guess. The fact that, yeah.
But right.
The only thing that matters with him is the title, because he also wrote Carwin the Biloquist. So okay, right. Charles Brockton Brown, but so there's the Biloquist thing there. But yeah. And Charles Brockton Brown would sometimes write, or this is just from like the research that I did because I haven't read him, but he was one of the first people who was really pushing in early American literature to write about race and identity and sex, but it was always with relation to commerce, not really this. It was really about the contradictions in economics and the market and in commerce and the way that played out depending on your race and your socioeconomic status and your sex. So not quite this either. He was also like very much like he believed that the novel could tell the masses how to behave and teach them virtues. There's just something kind of intense about him that I'm just like, maybe I do want to read him. But yeah, it's all about how like the everyday little actions of the everyman can matter on a big level. And you need to teach people that so that it guides their behavior towards greater morals. That's the whole thing with Arthur Mervyn, right? He's like an anti-hero, but who's always striving to be good, even though he's constantly getting like beat down. Okay. Yeah. But
right.
Yeah.
So Fatima's a nerd.
Fatima's a nerd. Right. Like this whole thing where like she seems to think the reason that people don't really like her is because of her like non-stereotypical like race identity. But no, it's because you're reading an ancient, boring ass poem. I mean, I'm sure the poem's great to non-teens, but teens are bored, you know? Yeah. I mean, some teens, I guess. Also,
the murder trade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also there was that joke that she wanted to make about she decided not to make a joke about how the rain falls on the plains in Spain. That's from My Fair Lady. Yeah. Again, good. Don't make that joke, Fatima. Don't make that joke.
All right, that was a good decision, not because of race identity, but because
just in general. It doesn't matter what your race is. Don't say it.
Yeah, except in as much as Henry Higgins was taking her out of her normal society and trying to put her into a different sort of society by teaching her how to speak properly and dressing her up and that sort of thing. So there's that whole moving between your part of society.
And it was about accents, right? Because they're trying to, if I remember correctly, she has a Cockney accent in My Fair Lady, and they're trying to make her
yes.
Yeah, right. So it's also about like how you talk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's not like, I guess that's the thing, right? It's a reference that's on the nose, right? It's like, oh, and then by understanding this, I will gain a deeper, like, no, it's right. That is the joke she was making. Like, it's not subtextual even. Like that's the joke. I was making that joke.
Which, I do like knowing these things about her, knowing she's the kind of kid who would crush on Arthur Mervyn and is making My Fair Lady jokes in her head, teaches you a lot about the character. It's a very good way to characterize her. So it's really effective writing in that sense, right? Like you're not spending too much time telling me, you're telling me the joke she didn't make. And then I'm like, this child,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to Karina about Rolf One, because we named the intruding next door cat that comes by our house Rolf, and we don't know his real name. So we thought that was funny. But like, we don't have a lot of characterization points on Rolf as a dude, right? Like, is he a jerk? Is he all right? Do we think he's cool? Like, we know he likes the Smiths. So like, for a white boy in 1998 to like the Smiths rather than, I don't know, Slipknot or whatever, like, okay, he's probably
and he says he doesn't see color, which is always a little bit of a, maybe sometimes, I think sometimes people say I don't see color is actually trying too hard to not see color.
Right, and she does react to that, right? She has a little reaction where she's like, oh, that's not good. Saying you don't see color is not a good thing, but he's a teen. I wonder if 10 years from then he'll still hold that position or not, right? Like, I feel like that's what I'm saying. Like, I think he's ultimately a sweet and good boy who just likes who he likes. And he just hasn't really like developed a finer sense for all that kind of thing. He'll get better. I hope. Maybe not. Some people get worse, but I have faith.
Yeah.
Faith in Rolf.
Yeah.
Actually, does like a list as well, this author. I don't like lists of things. I think if you can put 3 things in a list and we get the idea, but she insists on doing 10 things at least, which is a bit tedious and time consuming and
well, I am okay with lists.
Are you?
Yes.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, and I'm just saying in case someone's listening and they're like, what's with the list? Well, I don't know, personal tastes.
Right.
Yeah. So, I like the story overall, but I kind of wish it had focused on what it had started to be about. Because after she met Violet, I think that's when the story started to feel flat. It did a narrative that was effective. It took me along, but that's where my brain stopped doing it's like little discoveries. I really liked all the Wally the Wigger stuff. It's just, there was something about the fact that he gets to play act at being Black and get away with it. And she resents it, but it's because he's charismatic. Like, the reason why everyone at school is willing to tolerate it is because if he was an awkward kid who was trying too hard to like sound Black, everyone would reject him. And like, I think what she's missing here and what's interesting is there's this interesting race dynamic here, but then there's also just charisma. Like, she just doesn't seem to have it, and he does. Like, that's fundamentally what's going on here, I think, because none of the other students are being super racist at her. There's a few incidents where, with like the principal and teachers and stuff, but even that, like that's really interesting because she's normally too white, right? Until she does something that could seem maybe stereotypically Black, and now she's too Black. Whereas Wally can be neither. He is never too white nor too Black. He gets away with everything. That's purely on race, right? So there's this weird thing where like some of the things she is experiencing and seeing are truly about race and some of them aren't. And for me, trying to cull that difference, like separate that, was kind of fun. Like, I was just like, yes, when she gets mad at Wally, now suddenly she's too Black because she's angry. That's racist. But the fact that people aren't really clapping at her poem, that's not racism. You're just not charismatic and you're weird, like... That I wish that story would have been more fun for me. I would have liked to stay in that high school more, I think.
I think so. I think that, as I said before, I love the premise. I like the idea. I like the idea of the 2 different coloured lips. So how she talks changes depending on who she's with and what environment she's in. So I thought that was really good. And I like the fact that she's a Black girl in a white society, and then the other one, what's her face, Fatima, is a sort of Black-white girl, and it's quite sort of interesting that then Fatima is trying to teach her how to behave like a Black girl when she herself is not visually Black. So I like that, but yeah, it did sort of go on and on a little bit, I think, and I kept waiting for something different to happen, something to sort of kick off the sort of last third of the story, or something different to change it. And I suppose you could say that her relationship with Rolf was that, but that was just he seemed like a nice kid, and and dated her for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. I was also, because we were saying, yeah, like it started to feel a bit flat, but I do want to say I did like Violet though as a character. I thought it was really funny when Fatima asks her, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend?" She's like, "I'm between options right now." Girl, you're 17. Like, what? I'm between options right now. Yeah, she had a confidence that was a lot of fun, and how she described her, like compared to Fatima, she's obese, even though really she's just voluptuous. Like the descriptions of Violet were really, I really painted a picture. I could really see her. Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at my notes, and one of my notes is the rain in Spain joke is funny if you're a nerd, all caps. And I did like the whole brown top lip, pink lower lip as a way to describe code switching, because that's what it is. But for a teenager who doesn't know what that word is, it's an interesting way to describe it. And I like the idea. There's a line about the two souls trying to merge into a better self, but she just hasn't gotten there yet, which was interesting. She's like separating it. And I think as she grows up over time, she was going to find a way to merge it to form her own personal identity. And that's something that I could sort of relate to, because on this show and in my professional life, I present in a particular way. But there is a very Cuban, very Latin side of me that just like goes kind of crazy at a Afro-Cuban beat and like dances all the time and belts out in Spanish songs and is just kind of right. And then like having those two things coexist and nurturing both sides of those things. When I was younger, I would definitely break them apart a lot more, and now less so. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Again, going back to when they first met, when Violet and Fatima first met, and Fatima said that she would normally buy something expensive to show that she could. So she's sort of trying to show that even though she's black, she's like a white person because I've got money and I can buy stuff. And yet when Violet tries to get samples of the lipstick, the assistant says we only give samples to, and then Violet says to everyone who asks, right? So it's that sort of, she's we know what the Clark was thinking, and Violet comes straight in and says to everyone who asks, right? And just sort of is right out there. She's very, very confident. She has that confidence that Fatima doesn't.
Yeah.
And then just to translate for our American listeners, Clark means clerk.
Oh, clerk. Yes.
Clerk.
Assistant. Clark. Sorry.
So
you see, I've got two lips. I got to.
Yeah. Also, you know, something I realized after reading the story, it just kind of hit me. We've been reading a lot of close third, right? Like, I want to like do a different POV now, just because like we've read stories in the past where the POV suddenly shifts or something. We've been doing a lot of close third, which I think is just, you know, is it the more popular one now in modern writing?
I think so. I think it depends on genre, but I think it's certainly the one I feel most comfortable with. And I know a lot of people I know writing first for the sort of psychological thriller thing, because then you are the person that's suffering and all this sort of stuff. But close third, I think next week's close third too. So sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I was just thinking about that.
I noticed.
Yeah. I was like, because we bring a lot of modern stuff. We haven't gone back in a while. When we read some older stuff, then it tends to be more omniscient, right? I feel like that's like a more, like a shift that's happened. Not that I don't like it. I like it, but yeah. The thing about close third is it's the best way if you're going to do a character study to study a character, right? Like, and that's really what this is. It's a very particular identity, and that's what we're doing in the story. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and it gives you it's sort of halfway between omniscient and first, isn't it? So you have a chance to have your character express some feelings but also to have that omniscient view of the surroundings and other characters and stuff.
Yeah, because there are some moments where the narrator is speaking to you about something that Fatima does not know about herself or something else. There was one section I liked actually. Where is it? It's where she does that very deftly. It's it might seem up to this point, like now the narrator's talking to you, the reader.
Yes.
There's a very slight shift here that you hadn't seen prior to the story, right? It might seem up to this point that Fatima simultaneously wore braces, glasses, and forehead acne. Like the way I've been describing her to you, you might think that she is not cute. And then when you hardly needed to glance at the gloss of her black hair or the sheen of her shins with or without lotion, Fatima knew this truth instinctively, right? Telling you she kind of knows this, but buried its warmth under the shame of early childhood teasing and a preference for melancholy self-pity. Like all of a sudden, it zooms out a little bit, just a little bit, which you can get away with in close third, right? Because prior to that, there was no, just so you know, Fatima's not busted. She thinks she's busted, but that's just because like she's very dramatic. She reads 18th century literature. Like just like this moment where like the narrator's like confiding in you as a reader, which I always like.
And you're right, and they did used to do this a lot in older texts where you needed a narrator to move the story along, and in plays and so on, they'd have a narrator that would come onto stage and tell you what's happening before the characters came back on. So yeah, it's a bit like that. So that's interesting. Yeah, I'd miss that.
Yeah, I like that little moment. I didn't catch it on my first read through, but on my second one I did. I'm like, oh, the narrator just suddenly looked at me. Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of strange, right? Reading sometimes to analyze. There's like two brains going, the part of you that's reading and the part of you that's like paying attention to what the author is doing to you. So yeah, I just started a new book where I actually can't turn off realizing what the author's doing to me, and it feels violent and like I'm in the hands of a sadist. Like, okay. It's 2666 by Roberto Bolaño. Okay. Why is he hurting me? And why do I like it? It's like I'm in a BDSM relationship with a dead writer. Anyway, so let's talk about the end real quick, just to sort of like wrap up as we come up on the half hour. So Andy, why does the friendship kind of break? Like, what is that whole thing about?
Right. Well, really, I think it's just the betrayal of her most secret insult / shame, right? Like the fact that she was secretly dating Rolf, they would have been like, oh, but she could have gotten past that pretty quickly.
But why did she hide it in the first place?
Well, a little bit. Violet made rules, right? Like this is when she didn't let her also say heavens to Murgatroyd, right? Violet made rules that Fatima's only allowed to be black in the way Violet decided she can be black.
To be fair, no white friend would let her say heavens to Murgatroyd either, but your point is well taken.
I would let her say heavens to Murgatroyd.
Okay.
Back in 1998.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what we're saying is that Fatima, or what, to put it more succinctly, like doesn't want Violet to know that she chose, in this instance, whiteness.
Right.
Which is sad. Makes me sad for them. You're not making a choice between whiteness or blackness. You are your own unique person, and you can like whoever you like. Teens, I want to throttle them. You guys should stay friends.
Yeah, I think it is just like that, isn't it? That Violet seemed to think that Fatima wanted to learn how to be a black person in a black skin, and I think that probably Fatima thought that that Violet would think that she'd sold out and gone back to her sort of white roots, as it were.
Yeah, but it's also like, how good a friend was Violet really? Like, there's two ways they could have done this, right? They're going to be like, oh, you want to learn more about this culture? I will teach you. And then like also like, yeah, tell me about your stupid Yogi Bear thing and your 18th century novels. Like, those are weird, but like, okay, those are both of the things you like now, right?
Yes.
But it wasn't both of the things. It was Violet right? From on high, making pronouncements about what counts and doesn't count.
Yes, yes. But I'm going to come in defense of Violet a little bit here, which is they're 17 years old. Fatima very much wanted Violet to play that role. And I have faith that if Fatima had handled this differently and told Violet in an excited and giddy way that she's dating this white boy at school, Violet would have accepted it. She would have. I think she would have found a way.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
she would not have.
It still felt like a breach, which is why she had to hide it.
Yes, yes. It did feel like a breach. But like Fatima is helped create the rules that would make this feel like a breach. Because she's young. They're both young. Like, this is just the problem of youth. They're dumb. Like, you know what I mean? Like, both of them are just, the difference between whiteness and blackness is too acute for them because they're teenagers and because identity is a thing that they're obsessed with right now. That's why Fatima's thinking about her two lips and doesn't yet. And like, she knows that eventually these things will merge, but she's just not there yet. They'll stay friends. They'll make up.
You think?
Yeah, they're just babies. They'll get back together eventually.
No, I don't think.
I don't think Murgatroyd.
I just looking back at where Violet told her about Patty Mayonnaise, and she didn't like that name. So
yeah. Fatima's gonna have to grow up real quick and just apologize for that without an excuse.
Yeah.
That's what you do there.
I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry. Move on.
Yeah. That's how people grow together. I want them to be best friends for life.
Yeah, you just want a happy ending, don't you? That's you.
It's just because, like, I don't know, I guess having been a teenage girl and this happens with teenage friendships. Like, there's that moment where, like, you find someone and they become, like, this friend and you're just, like, so amazed at how you just mesh and you do everything together and you have all the same interests, right? But then all of a sudden one of them breaks from it and it's like somehow you broke this secret pact. That only happens when you're a teen, but I know you can move past it. Yeah. I don't know. Girl friendships are very strange. If you want to learn about girl friendships, read the Elena Ferrante series. The My Brilliant Friend, the Napolitano series. That is the best drawn picture of female friendships. And it starts when they're young, when they're like 5 and 6 years old, to when they are like old ladies throughout the whole thing on the 4 books. Really good. Accurate.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I just see this and I'm just like, I guess it's just like, I know what this is. Your girls are fine. Teenagers.
Yeah. Bang their heads together.
Anything else you guys want to say?
Just that we should exit stage left even.
Okay.
I'm real excited for Yogi Bear references.
Shall we rate?
Can I just say that talking about cultural references and things, that when I was at university in late 1970s, we had a Good Grief Charlie Brown thing going on for 4 years.
Ooh.
Whenever something was exasperating or disappointing, oh, good grief. And it just went on and on and on. That's
we
crazy.
say big rip.
Big rip.
What's that about?
It's like when something, yeah, you know this, Andy, don't you?
No.
Big rip.
No.
Oh, maybe
That's
it's more
something the
gaming
kids
stuff.
say.
It is something the kids say, but I say it now too. I love it. The kids invented a great thing. When something's disappointing, it's kind of in the same vein a little bit as like Alexa play Despacito. But
which is another thing the kids say.
Yeah, I like that one too. The kids have great things. You should know what the kids say. You have one.
No, he's 15. That's it. He's got a whole different. He doesn't say rip. He's on like the next level now.
He says press F to pay respects.
No, that's old.
I know that's old. God, I'm old. I'm ancient.
All right, that's from like Call of Duty 2.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Ratings.
4.
Okay, Andy?
Yeah, 4.
All right, I'm coming at a 4.5.
Whoa.
Okay.
Oh, all right. Gerald, what are we reading next week since you're always after me?
Oh, what? What we're reading next week?
Is it the order we pick the stories?
Yes, it's the same
That's the order.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, you never
my
explained this.
Oh my God,
So
you
next
guys.
week, next
You just
week
said
I'll
it's
be
always
saying-
the same, but it changes.
I'll be saying, welcome to Literary Roadhouse, and then it'll be Andy.
and then
Andy's
then
next.
I'm going to say the next story at the end.
Yes.
Yes. Wow. It's like a
Okay.
curtain's lifted and
Oh,
oh, the heavenly choirs singing a sudden realization. I think we're going a little bit over the top here.
I love
Next
it.
week,
Mhm.
next week we are reading Hollow by Breece D'J Pancake.
Okay. But before you go, tell us about your late 18th century literary crush in our Facebook group, the Literary Roadhouse Readers. If you enjoy our free samples of literary fiction, then help others sample us too by leaving a review on iTunes. If you like what you sampled, then consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with a white boy and FUBU in your life. Until next time, heavens to Murgatroyd!